So this thing right here is basically a midlife crisis wrapped in German engineering, and somehow BMW convinced an entire generation of people that it's also a practical family sedan. Bold move, and it worked, because people are still lining up to buy this car. Used, new, leased, financed, doesn't matter. They want in. And honestly, you can see why. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. And for about the first 3 months of ownership, life is genuinely amazing. Then the bills start arriving. Let's talk about what it actually costs to own a BMW M5, because the sticker price is honestly the least scary number in this whole story. A new one right now is sitting somewhere around $110,000 to $130,000, depending on how many times you click the options list and forget to stop. Which, if you've ever been on the BMW configurator, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You go in wanting a car. You come out having accidentally spent $18,000 on paint, seats, and a sound system that plays fake engine noise through the speakers, which is its own conversation. But most people aren't buying these new. The used market is where things get really interesting. You can find a few-year-old M5 with reasonable miles for somewhere in the $60,000 to $80,000 range, and your brain immediately goes, okay, that's actually a lot of car for the money, and technically you're not wrong. The problem is your brain forgot to account for everything that comes after the purchase. The depreciation on this car is something to genuinely respect, and not in a good way. A brand new M5 loses value like it has somewhere to be. We're talking 30 to 40% in the first 3 years, sometimes more depending on the market, which means if you're buying new, you are absolutely donating to the financial well-being of whoever buys it from you later. Now, if you're the person buying it used, that depreciation already happened and you feel like a genius until you go to sell it, and then you realize you're now the person donating to the next guy. It's just how the cycle works. Nobody wins, except maybe the third owner who paid $40,000 and is now praying nothing breaks. Let's talk about fuel, because this is not a car that's going to help you at the pump. This thing runs on premium only, and it will absolutely know if you tried to sneak in regular. Not because there's a sensor that sends you a strongly worded letter, but because the performance difference is noticeable, and long-term, you're not doing the engine any favors. So every time you fill up, you are paying premium prices. And with a tank that holds around 21 gallons and real-world fuel economy that hovers somewhere between 14 and 18 miles per gallon depending on how much you've been enjoying yourself on the highway, which in an M5 is going to be a lot, you're looking at fuel costs that add up fast. If you're driving 15,000 miles a year, budget somewhere around $3,500 to $4,500 just in gas. Annually, every year, forever, until you sell it or it sells you. Insurance. Okay, so this is the part where people who haven't priced this out yet are going to have a small moment. Insuring an M5 is not like insuring a Camry. Shocking, I know. You're typically looking at anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500 a year, depending on your age, your driving record, where you live, and whether your insurance company has ever seen what M5 owners do on empty roads at 11 p.m. Younger drivers expect the higher end of that range. Some people are paying more than that. There are Reddit threads about this, whole threads, just people sharing their insurance quotes like war stories. Someone will post a $6,000 annual premium, and everyone responds with genuine sympathy because they've been there. Now here's where the real ownership story begins: maintenance. And I want you to stay with me here because this is important. BMW has an included maintenance program on new cars that covers the basics, oil changes, certain inspections, for a few years. Great, wonderful, you feel taken care of. But that program ends, and when it ends, you are now paying BMW prices for BMW service on a BMW that is now slightly older and slightly more interested in needing things. An oil change on this car isn't a $50 Jiffy Lube situation. You're looking at $150 to $250 just for an oil change at a dealer or a decent independent shop. Brake jobs on a high-performance car that actually gets used? Front brakes alone can run you $800 to $1,500. If you have the carbon ceramic brake option, congratulations, you've made a financial commitment that would make your accountant physically uncomfortable. Those rotors alone can cost thousands to replace, and they will eventually need replacing. Tires are another thing that new M5 owners discover with wide eyes. This car runs on wide performance spec tires that wear faster than normal tires, because that's just the trade-off you make when you want that kind of grip and handling. You're looking at $300 to $500 per tire for quality replacements, and you've got 4 of them. And if you're actually using this car the way it was intended, you might be replacing them more often than you expect. Some owners report getting through a set in under 20,000 miles, which in tire math is painful. Let's talk about what breaks, because things do break on these cars. BMW reliability has been a whole topic of online discussion for years, and the M5 specifically has some known areas areas that owners talk about consistently. The cooling system on these cars has a reputation. Hoses, the expansion tank, the water pump, these are things that M5 owners in the forums will quietly mention when someone asks about ownership experience. Not because it's guaranteed to happen to you, but because it happens enough that people are not surprised when it comes up. And cooling system repairs on a car like this aren't cheap. You're often looking at $1,000 or more depending on exactly what's failed and whether anything else decided to join in. The V8 engine in this car, and I am not going into specs because that's not what this video is, has been generally well regarded, but high-performance engines that get pushed hard do have a higher tolerance for expensive problems. Oil consumption is something owners mention. Not catastrophic, but worth monitoring. And on an engine this complex, monitoring things yourself isn't always simple. Look, BMW makes incredible technology. They also make a lot of it, and more technology means more things that can do unexpected stuff at unexpected times. iDrive warnings, sensor issues, random electrical gremlins, these are things that come up in M5 ownership discussions regularly. Sometimes it's something minor that goes away. Sometimes it's something minor that costs $600 at the dealer to diagnose and fix. The diagnostic fee alone at a BMW dealer is going to make you momentarily reconsider your choices. Here's something that surprises a lot of new M5 owners though, and this is the other side of the story. For everything this car demands from your wallet, it also genuinely delivers in ways that are hard to describe until you've experienced it. People who own these cars talk about them differently than people who just drive them once. There's a reason the M5 has this kind of reputation and has held it for decades. When this car is working, when it's serviced, when you're in the right conditions, owners consistently say it's one of the most engaging, rewarding driving experiences you can have in something that also has 4 doors and a back seat for your kids or your groceries or whatever. The combination of performance and practicality at that level is genuinely rare. The problem isn't that the car is bad, the car is actually excellent. The problem is that excellent in BMW's world is expensive to maintain, and that gap between incredible to drive and painful to own is what catches people off guard. The community around these cars is also real. M5 owners tend to be enthusiastic people who genuinely love their cars, and there's a huge support network online of people who've already had every problem you're about to have and documented it in detail. That's worth something. When your expansion tank starts acting up, someone on BimmerPost has already written a 47-page thread about it with photos and part numbers and which independent shops do it right. You're not alone in this experience. You're joining a club, a slightly expensive club, but a club. Now let's try to put some real numbers together because I know some of you are actually considering this and you deserve an honest picture. If you're buying a used M5 in the $70,000 range and you're planning to own it for a few years, here's roughly what you're looking at beyond the purchase price on an annual basis. Insurance, let's say $3,000. Fuel, around $4,000. Routine maintenance, conservatively $1,500 to $2,000 in a good year. Tires, averaged out maybe $800 to $1,200 per year. And then you need to budget something for unexpected repairs because on a high-performance German luxury car, there will be unexpected repairs. If you're budgeting $2,000 a year for those and nothing major happens, great. If something major does happen, $2,000 doesn't cover it. So the honest answer is budget more. We're talking about a car that could cost you $10,000 to $12,000 a year just to keep on the road, on top of whatever your financing or ownership costs are. That's before you depreciate your way through it over 3 to 5 years. And here's the question you have to ask yourself honestly. Does the experience justify that number for you? Because for some people, the answer is absolutely yes. If you're someone who genuinely loves driving, who wanted an M5 since you were a teenager watching videos online, who has the financial stability to absorb the ownership cost without it disrupting your life, this car might be worth every penny of it. People who own these cars and can actually afford to own them properly tend to be very happy with their decision. The people who end up unhappy are usually the ones who stretched to get in, who bought at the top of what they could manage and then got surprised by a $3,000 repair 6 months later, who are now driving something incredible but quietly stressed about it every time a new warning light shows up. That stress takes something away from the ownership experience, and the car deserves better than being a source of financial anxiety. If you're set on an M5 and you're shopping used, the advice you'll hear consistently from experienced owners is to get a pre-purchase inspection from an independent BMW specialist before you buy anything. Not the dealer selling it, an independent shop. A good PPI costs a couple $100 and has saved many buyers from purchasing someone else's very expensive problems. People who skip the PPI to save money have written heartbreaking Reddit posts about it. Don't be a heartbreaking Reddit post. Also look at the service history. An M5 with no service records is a mystery, and mysteries on German performance cars are rarely pleasant. You want to see that someone cared for this thing, that it got its oil changes, that there's documentation. A well-maintained M5 with records is a very different ownership proposition than one that had a rough first couple of years with an owner who thought they could skip maintenance on a car like this. You cannot skip maintenance on a car like this. The car will remind you, loudly, with warning lights and invoice amounts. The honest final take is this: the BMW M5 is genuinely one of the great cars. That reputation is not accidental, and it's not just marketing. It's a car that delivers a real experience that not many other vehicles can match, but it asks a lot of you in return. It wants premium fuel, proper service, quality tires, and your full financial attention. It does not care about your budget. It cares about being maintained correctly. If you can meet it there, it'll give you an ownership experience you'll genuinely remember. If you can't, or if you're hoping to kind of get by on the cheap, it'll remind you regularly that this was never that kind of car. So would I recommend this car? I'd recommend it to the right person. And the right person isn't just someone who wants an M5. It's someone who wants an M5 and has actually done the math and is still smiling after. If that's you, welcome to the club. If the math made you frown a little, that's useful information and you should absolutely pay attention to it. Either way, now you know what you're actually signing up for, which is kind of the whole point. If this kind of honest ownership breakdown is useful to you, hit that subscribe button because we are literally at 5 subscribers right now and our goal is to get to 100. 5. I said 5. We are basically a very small support group for people who want to know the real cost of cars before they buy them. If you know someone considering an M5, send them this video. That's the kind of thing that saves people money and earns you the title of responsible friend. And drop a comment telling me which car you want us to cover next. We read every single one of them because again, 5 subscribers, we have time. See you in the next one.